some experiences don't scare you because of what happens in the moment. They stay with you because of what they imply, because of what they suggest might still be out there, watching, waiting, and remembering you long after you think everything is over. For me, those experiences began when I worked the overnight shift at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. My name is David, and at the time, I was in my early 20s struggling to make ends meet and willing to take any job that paid consistently. The gas station sat alone off a long stretch of road, surrounded by fields and darkness. There were no nearby houses, no businesses open late, and no real reason for anyone to stop there unless they absolutely had to. Most nights were painfully quiet, with only a handful of customers between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. This was years ago, back when security cameras weren't considered essential for small businesses. Technically, the store had a system, but it was outdated and barely functional. The owner was cheap, forgetful, and constantly argued with me about the same things as if we'd never discussed them before. Still, the job itself was easy. Too easy, honestly. Most of my shift was spent leaning against the counter, flipping through magazines and fighting off boredom while the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. That buzzing eventually faded into background noise, something my brain stopped acknowledging entirely. Hours blended together, and time lost its meaning in the early morning darkness. That's why, when the front door chimed, it startled me so badly. I looked up, expecting a tired truck driver or someone grabbing a late-night coffee. Instead, I saw a man walking in who immediately made my stomach drop. He was tall, probably in his early 30s, black, with an athletic build that made him look like he might have once been a professional athlete. But none of that mattered, because he was absolutely covered in blood. Not a smear or a small stain, but an overwhelming amount. Thick splatters across his chest, streaks running down his arms, dried patches on his face. There was so much of it that my brain struggled to process what I was seeing at first, almost like it couldn't accept that this was real. For a moment, I wondered if it was paint. That's how surreal it looked, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. What unsettled me the most were his eyes. They weren't frantic or angry. They weren't wide with panic or fear. They were completely empty. He looked calm, relaxed, almost bored, like this was just another routine stop in his night. It was as if he wasn't even aware of the blood covering him. I couldn't stop staring, even though every instinct in my body told me to look away. Every time I managed to glance down, my eyes snapped right back to his face. Eventually, he noticed, which wasn't surprising considering how blatantly I was staring. To my horror, he smiled. In a calm, conversational tone, he said, "Don't worry, it's not my blood." As if that was supposed to reassure me. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. My thoughts spiraled instantly. This man had likely just killed someone, and now he was standing alone with me in an isolated gas station in the middle of the night. The fear was so intense that my body locked up for a few seconds. Then survival instincts took over. I nodded like he'd said something completely normal and buried my face back in the magazine, pretending nothing was wrong. I watched him move through the store from the corner of my eye. He wandered the aisles casually, grabbed a few random items and brought them to the counter. I was almost surprised he didn't just steal them. I would have let him. I rang him up as quickly as I could, keeping my eyes down and my movements steady. He paid in cash, said nothing else, and walked out. The door chimed, and he disappeared into the darkness. The moment I heard a car engine start, I grabbed the phone and called 911. I told the dispatcher everything I'd seen. I explained that I didn't know what had happened, but I was certain something terrible had. I was in the middle of answering a question when the front door chimed again. My blood ran cold. He was back. The same man, now visibly angry. He must have seen me through the window with the phone in my hand. I hung up immediately, but it didn't matter. He stormed toward the counter, demanding to know if I'd called the police. I denied it, but he didn't believe me. His voice grew louder. His calm vanished. The emptiness in his eyes was replaced by pure rage. Before I could react, he launched himself over the counter. He didn't climb it. He cleared it in one violent motion and tackled me to the floor. His hands wrapped around my throat and I couldn't breathe. I fought as hard as I could, kicking, scratching, biting, doing anything to stay alive. Blood smeared across my clothes and face as we struggled. I was convinced that I was going to die right there on that floor. In desperation, I screamed that I had a gun and that I would shoot him if he didn't get off me. It was a complete lie, but something about the way I said it must have convinced him. He froze, scrambled away, and ran out the door. I lay on the floor for several minutes, shaking and gasping for air, before the police arrived. They took my statement and left to search for him. I never heard anything after that. No follow-up, no arrest, no news coverage. It was as if it had never happened. A few months later, I was still working there, which in hindsight was a mistake. One night, another man walked in, and immediately something felt off. He was wearing an expensive, perfectly tailored dark gray suit. He didn't browse the aisles or look around. He walked straight to the counter, pulled a photograph from his jacket and slid it toward me. The photo showed the blood-covered man. He asked if I had ever seen him before. I lied and said no. The man stared at me in silence for what felt like an eternity, studying my face like he was trying to read my thoughts. Finally, he took the photo back, turned to leave, then stopped and said, "I know you're lying." After that, I began noticing a silver SUV everywhere I went. Outside the store, at the grocery store, even parked on my street. A few weeks later, someone threw a rock through my living room window in the middle of the night. That was enough. I quit my job, moved away, and eventually left the state entirely. I thought it was over. 8 months ago, I learned it wasn't. I was driving home late from a job site, exhausted beyond belief. I stopped at a gas station, parked in the lot, and fell asleep in my truck. When I woke up and started driving again, I heard strange thumping sounds coming from behind me. Eventually, a loud crash shattered the silence. There was a man standing in the bed of my truck, smashing the glass divider with one of my tools. I nearly crashed, trying to shake him off. He fled into the trees when I stopped. In the truck bed, I found a small trash bag, wet, foul-smelling, and stained red. I never called the police. Some encounters aren't accidents, some are warnings. And some people don't want witnesses.